Sales doesn't need to be hard or overcomplicated. That's not my way of saying that sales is easy. Rather, I'm saying that you can have a successful career in sales if you develop a process and execute on it consistently. This channel is dedicated to what a sales process framework could look like and showcasing the different best and worst practices around the different steps of a sales process. The intention is to publish short, weekly videos that are easily digestible with clear action items that you can begin using today. Welcome to Sunday Sales Staples. Today's topic covers another basic principle that every sales professional needs in their toolkit: setting an agenda for your meetings with prospects. Let's say you've booked a discovery call or you've scheduled a proposal meeting with someone who is qualified for your product, service, or solution. You want to make sure that you take control of the conversation from the start, and one of the best ways to do this is by setting an agenda. By setting an agenda, you're defining the objectives of the call, setting expectations of everyone involved, and you're showing attendees why they need to be there. Without this crucial step, the call or meeting may get off to a rocky start. By the end of this video, you will be able to develop your own agendas for the different meetings that you have with prospects. But before we jump into a framework, I want to share a story. When I was getting my feet wet in my first sales role, I would bulldoze straight into my pitch with prospects during proposal meetings. I thought the less fluff at the beginning meant more time to get into the details that mattered. I was in field sales back in the day, so I was under the impression that a quicker proposal meant that I had more time in the field to reach more prospects and win new business. This approach sank me. The people sitting across the table from me in these proposal meetings dragged the conversations on for longer than I thought were necessary, and decisions took longer than they should have. I thought it was a them problem, not a me problem. After a couple of months on the job, I decided to call up a counterpart in a nearby territory to vent about my frustrations with these proposal meetings. For anonymity, let's call my counterpart Jake. Jake listened for a few minutes so that I could blow off some steam, and then he invited me to shadow him for a day in his territory to see how he did things. I gladly accepted. After a full day of following Jake around in his territory, I had a laundry list of notes and takeaways that I could replicate when I got back to my accounts. One of these takeaways was the way Jake started each meeting with an agenda. After getting the decision maker or decision-making team in the room, he would set the agenda with a template that I will review momentarily, and then he would start the conversation. Once I adopted and implemented this agenda-setting template, my meetings were much more productive. The conversations didn't drag on for longer than they needed to, the decision makers were more engaged throughout the meeting, and my sales volume began to increase. It was such a simple step that it's something I always like to teach new and veteran sales professionals to make sure they're doing it too. Let's use this as an opportunity to learn from my naive mistake and dig into my template. The agenda setting template that has worked for me and others in the past is fairly simple. There are 5 pillars of the template, and they are as follows: defining the purpose of the meeting, reviewing the prospect's current situation, showcasing specific value propositions of my product, service, or solution, outlining goals and takeaways for the meeting, and then setting a timeline for the meeting. Defining the purpose of the meeting gets the prospect to pay attention from the start, and it helps them understand why they are there. Reviewing the prospect's current situation is either a way for you to learn more about how they're currently doing things, or recapping what you already know about their current situation. Showcasing value propositions helps the prospect understand what's in it for them and the value that you're going to provide their organization. Outlining a goal or takeaway for the meeting lets the prospect know that this is meant to be a productive conversation with some sort of end result. And putting a time frame on the meeting lets everyone know that there isn't necessarily time to drag your feet and you're all there to get stuff done. I do want to note that the timelines can be considered loose. You should allow 15 to 30 minutes between your meetings in case any particular meeting spills over the allotted time. Of course, you don't want to leave the table or the call if your prospect is engaged and wants to continue the conversation. I should also note that I don't strictly follow these pillars in any specific order. Rather, I mix them up depending on how I'm feeling in any particular meeting. Now, let's jump into some examples. For a discovery call, the agenda could sound something like: Today's call is to determine if our service is going to be a good fit for your organization. We'll chat for a quick 15 minutes to learn more about your current operations. I'll share more about why we work with companies like yours, and then we'll agree on next steps for the both of us. As you can see, each pillar of my template is covered in this very quick 10-second agenda. Moving on to a proposal meeting, an agenda could sound something like, today's meeting is to determine if a partnership between my company and yours for Q2 of this year makes sense. We'll start by recapping your current operations. I'll showcase the impact that our service can bring to your revenue organization. We'll ideally end on a mutual agreement to move forward with a partnership, and we'll do all of this in about 30 minutes. Note that I added the part about a partnership in Q2 into this agenda. To help pull the prospect into an implementation date, you could always include something like this in there to get the thought process in motion. As you can see, setting an agenda is a short, simple tool that you can begin using today in your meetings. I'm sure you can come up with 100 different ways to set an agenda, but the important thing is that you begin doing it today. That wraps up this week's overview of agenda setting, and I appreciate you checking out the video. If you want to dig deeper into the skill of setting agendas, then I highly recommend checking out some articles that you can easily find on Google. Some people will have similar ideas to mine, and others will differ. At the end of the day, it's up to you to craft your own agenda setting framework, and I do hope there were some key takeaways that you can begin using today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, sales does not need to be hard. While sales is becoming vastly more complex with metrics and data, your process doesn't need to be so convoluted that it isn't easily replicated. Keep coming back to this channel to learn more about how to simplify your process and win new business. And feel free to email me at sundaysalesstaples@gmail.com or reach out on Instagram at sundaysalesstaples. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll catch you next week.